Oh, oh, here we go. This can only end in tears. It's Union Cross time, and the end is near, definitely. It's the beginning of the end when it comes to the Union Cross Union Saga of Kingdom Hearts. We got a big juicy update and part of the truth when it comes to the Strelitzia incident, and yes, Ventus was there and we saw it play out. But other aspects within the story update leads into the thoughts and combinations with the concept of theories going forward into Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts ReMind, and of course Kingdom Hearts 2020. Maybe some Melody and Memory as well. But I gotta say, this combined with what we're seeing in Dark Road, Kingdom Hearts is taking a very dark path. And I hope you guys are ready for that. What's up guys, it's HMK once again with another Kingdom Hearts Union Cross video on how it can tie into Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, and beyond. Like I said, this is going to be a juicy and a spicy one, so for the safety of hype, I'm going to ask you to strap on in and let's dive directly into the darkness. For this video, I'm going to be using the Everglow translation, so big thank you to my boy. I'm going to leave a link to this channel in the description box below. Okay, funny enough, as substantial as this update is, it starts out pretty tame. Maleficent, after beating the ever-living daylights out of Lorium, winds up back in the room where the Ark is. I am not calling it the lifeboat, I don't care, I'm calling it the Ark. She's back at the Ark and the Darkness is there with her, Mr. Darkness. She wonders if she's back in her own time, but it's not that simple. She's merely back in the real world. The Ark that she took her from the data world, which everyone is at right now, to the real world, and that the Darkness explains that in order for her to get back to her own time, she's gonna have to take another trip in a real Ark this time. It'll work, trust me. As confuzzled as Maleficent is, she complies, and then, being the nice lady that she is, she offers a ride to the Darkness, saying that, hey, you don't have a forum, you could bunk with me and we can go together. But then the Darkness says, you know what, you don't need any more of this darkness, and I still have business here. Now that is where things get spicy. We can already put 2 and 2 together and then understand that this leads directly into the events of Maleficent's return in Kingdom Hearts 2. She's gonna appear there without a body, she's gonna be in her rags, Diablo is gonna take her over to the 3 good fairies, they're gonna remember her, and poof, she's back. Okay, now this is where things get a bit spicy, as this is where the Union leaders start to discuss on the predicament of Ventus's memories, how he's not a true quote-unquote Union leader, and seeing if they could mark up a connection to him and Strelitzia's disappearance. As Lorium is still nowhere to be seen, the discussion is between Brain, Skuld, and Ephemer. Whereas they ponder the notion if Ventus is truly involved with the situation of Strelitzia's disappearance, if he's a victim as well, as the agreed upon point right now is that the Darkness is responsible completely and utterly. While Brain doesn't have all the answers, he deduces that the Darkness is a lot closer than they think and it's moving. That is some grade A detective work, my friend. As Ventus rests and they continue to discuss, we are treated to an interesting flashback scene, a continuation of a conversation between that of the Master of Masters and Luxu. Here, Luxu is pretty despondent on the current situation, or I should say the situation is going to lead up to when they have to leave the world in the wake of its apparent destruction in order to run away from the Darkness. Luxu isn't down with that, and he believes as a Keyblade wielder he should be able to fight the Darkness along with all other Keyblade wielders, and it kind of sucks that they have to keep running away. At this point, the Master of Masters seems pretty antsy and is tired of Luxu's whining. Here's where things get kinda meta. The Master of Masters believes that Luxu is going too hard into jumping into conclusions on the concept of darkness, light, winning, losing, running away, the Keyblades, and all of that, and that he's getting mad since his pet theory is not proving true. That he should wait until the time comes where the truth gets revealed and more information is available. Now this I find extremely hilarious because a lot of people, myself included, take this as the more referring to Kingdom Hearts fans that like to make theories and whatnot, and that it gets a little too out of control. As you guys saw my reaction, I was laughing quite a bit. But at the same time, while it's cool to take this at face value, the Master of Masters is a master of misdirection. As he says in Kingdom Hearts ReMind, the truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear. So when you boil it down to the purest sense, this could literally just be the Master of Masters putting Luxu in his place because he doesn't know everything. Lucio, I mean, because after all, he does not have a Book of Prophecy. And guess who does? The Master. Which is funny because everyone that's under the Master of Masters is a Keyblade Master in their own right, but and while the Master of Masters does state that sometimes things don't have an answer, he states that there is a way to defeat the darkness, but it will take a lot of time and a lot of planning, not enough for 1 or 2 lifetimes. And it seems like it was definitely a plan that took a very long time up until Xigbar revealing himself as Lucio at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, which is years ahead of what happened to Union Cross. But as the Master of Masters is explaining his plan about tearing down the borders, throwing away time, destroying the world and leaving it behind, all being part of a plan to defeat the darkness, everything goes dark, and in his last words, he appears behind Lucio as if he literally just bleeped, instant transmission, teleportation. This is very interesting because it's not something in the like of using dark corridors, using the darkness or an element in order to phase through and appear somewhere else that we've seen in many battles. But it seems that the Master of Masters has the ability to literally phase one area to another in an instant. Now here's a couple of takes on that whole spiel. Right? Maybe this is him using the power of space, which he then teaches and passes on to Lucio, who as Xigbar has the power over that element. Or perhaps this goes along with the notion that the Master of Masters was talking about in Kingdom Hearts Key back cover, when he was like, if I vanish, dim, fade, something that seemed to be akin to that of the power of waking. But maybe that's the answer that's in our face the whole time, that the Master of Masters has mastered the power of waking so much so that he can abuse it to the point where he can take himself, pull his heart out of one instance and appear in another instance in an instant. And with his words about tearing down time, this probably isn't only limited to that of space. Perhaps he's able to use this power to appear at various points in time that his eye has seen or allowed him to. Which could explain how he came to have a meeting with young Xehanort in the Kingdom Hearts 3 ReMind prologue, and how he ended up in Shibuya in the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret movie. While it doesn't seem like a power that is grand in sheer force, it is an extremely powerful ability, and something grand enough that I can see someone like the Master of Masters utilizing for his purposes. And now, finally we get to the grand, juicy stuff. The meeting between Ventus and Strelitzia while Ventus was in the shadows. We kind of knew already from a previous story update that Ventus was indeed there, but now we know how it plays out. As Ventus is resting in his bed, he recalls the memory that he was questioned about by Ephemer and Brain. Here we see Strelitzia and her Chirithy enter the dark abandoned house looking for the player, but there in the shadows is Ventus, but his eyes seem glossed over, pretty despondent. Almost as if he's being controlled. We've seen this before in the likes of Zack and Terra. And as we continue this cutscene, my heart was pounding on see how it's gonna go down, and it actually goes down really quick. The darkness appears behind Ventus and strikes down Strelitzia pretty cleanly. But it's almost as if the darkness itself became the manifestation of what seems to be a blade, but appeared back behind Ventus once the job was done. There he orders Ventus to pick it up, to which Ventus complies and picks up Strelitzia's Union Handbook. Afterwards, the darkness is like, alright, let's go. As the darkness appears from behind Ventus to beyond that of Strelitzia's body, Strelitzia, still kind of conscious, sees Ventus walk past her. As they go for the exit, the darkness, entering the light, becomes that of Ava. Horrified, Ventus wakes up in tears, and that's how the update ends. Okay, so there's a good number of things we gotta go over when it comes to this particular scene. Oh mama. Okay, first and foremost, Ventus was not directly responsible for Strelitzia's death. However, he was there when the crime occurred, and the darkness seemed to appear behind him. It is still a question, an unknown question, if the darkness truly originated from Ventus or merely found its way there. Either way, we can assume that this eventually does take on the form of Vanitas in the current Kingdom Hearts series, as Vanitas states that he was dwelling within Ventus for a very long time, and all Xehanort did was rip him straight out of him. And if this is Vanitas we're talking about, then he's definitely capable of doing something like this. Next up is that Strelitzia was still conscious as Ventus passed by her. Now this is a very important point to take in, as the darkness appeared from behind Ventus to beyond her body. It did not pass by in front of her, the only thing that passed by in front of her was Ventus walking to the instruction of the darkness. And as she saw this, and as we've seen that she still has some sort of connection with her brother Laurium, being able to speak to him in his dreams, then she is limited to this perspective of this information that she'll probably relay over to her brother, and that could lead to a very spicy outcome. To which, in her perspective, she doesn't know any better. To her and her knowledge, Ventus was the one that killed her. Now, leading to the third and final super spicy thing we see in this cutscene is that the darkness takes on the form of Ava. Now, I've seen many a take when it comes to the perspective of what is going on with this scene. Personally, I don't believe the darkness is truly Ava. I believe that the darkness is taking the form of Ava in order to present itself to Ventus in a familiar and comfortable manner. One thing I like to point out is that the silhouettes of the darkness and Ava herself don't really line up. And for one side of the coin for me is that it doesn't make sense for Ava to be the darkness if she is part of the plan in order to save the world, save the light, yada yada yada. But on the other flip side, it could be that she is indeed the darkness or an agent of darkness, and that all of her efforts beforehand seem to be on the side of light. It really could be an intricate game she is playing in order to get the darkness on the winning side. As something that many people point out, foxes are definitely considered to be tricksters in many cultures. And if any idea of the sort like that is true, then that would definitely make Ava the traitor. And wouldn't that be hilarious considering that the Vulpius Union is the biggest worldwide? Nomura must really think, oh yeah, it's all come together. While that's cool to think about, right now I don't believe that the darkness is Ava. I feel that the darkness is literally masquerading as Ava during this point in time. Either way, this is an insane update, but this is where it ends, and I feel that we're going to be getting something incredibly spicier when it comes to the next story update. But the end of the Union Saga has definitely begun with this update. Honestly, I can't wait for the amount of guilt that Ventus is going to feel, and see how Laurium, if he learns anything about this, is going to feel about him being part of the Union leaders. For me, a clash is imminent, and it could be that this situation is what leads to the break. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Leave your comments, theories, and more in the comment section below, and be sure to like, share, favorite, and most importantly subscribe to HMK as I post Kingdom Hearts content every week. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping making this video happen. If you want to find out how you can support HMK for just $1 a month, please check out my Patreon info in the description box below. Alright guys, until the next Kingdom Hearts video, this has been HMK, and I'll check you guys later.
So you haven't subscribed to HMK yet? Don't piss Xemnas off.